Good morning. Welcome to Connecting America on the USA Today streaming channels. Roll call, everybody. I'm Jim Rosenfield.
I'm Kieran Chadry.
Gang's all here, baby.
Yeah.
Full house it's Full House Friday.
And Allison.
Allison's at home.
The
Good
band
morning,
is
Allison.
together. Good
Even
morning,
Trish
guys.
is
I was
here.
just dancing.
Hi, Trish.
Wow.
And coffee.
She's
Oh,
the
yeah.
savior. The
Hope your
savior.
coffee's made,
Coffee's
Allison.
here.
Speaking
Yep,
of Full
we got
House,
Full house. I love
you
it.
see what I did there?
Yes, it's going to be great.
Oh my gosh, just 2 days after the NBA tip-off of its new season, the FBI and the Justice Department announced that betting scandal that is just rocking the league. The DOJ saying the indictment also includes poker games. This is amazing. Rigged by the mafia that allegedly defrauded people out of millions of dollars. This is what the FBI director and U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York had to say about this yesterday.
This is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years. The FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing.
This scheme is an insider sports betting conspiracy that exploited confidential information about National Basketball Association athletes and teams.
Biggest names in the indictment: Portland Trailblazers coach Chauncey Billups, former player who's in the Hall of Fame, and Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier. NBA says both men have now been placed on leave, each facing money laundering and wire fraud charges. Prosecutors say Billups took part in mob-run poker games that were fixed to rip off other players who were lured to the games by the prospect of meeting a celebrity like Billups. Rozier is accused of providing inside information to bettors so they could get an edge and place winning bets, some of those bets involving games that he was playing in.
Guys, this is crazy. And Dave, I know you and I have talked about just the proliferation of gambling in sports before, but this one takes it to a new level.
Yeah, Allison, you're right. And this is one of the deals that professional sports needs to encounter, because once you wrap yourselves up in DraftKings and FanDuel and you partner with these betting companies, it's inevitable. Right. It's going to continue to get worse and worse and worse in all sports. And this isn't, Allison, the tip of the iceberg. Sidebar, I played with Chauncey Billups from the time that I was 13 years old
Really?
through high school. He went to my university, Colorado, and he is the greatest player in Colorado history. So this hits home. One of the most respected, liked guys, a Hall of Famer. So it is a stunning story, Allison.
Yeah, it's also interesting.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead, Karen.
Oh, I was just saying that the whole rise of the prop bets as well. You know, the ability to do player props means, oops, you know, you can fumble the ball.
Yeah, how
or,
players are
oops,
gonna
I
do
can
in the
fake an
game.
injury.
Yeah.
And they actually, you know, they do have a entire system where they're scanning for that. You know, using algorithms for unusual betting activity. And I guess that is how this got on the radar in the first place.
That's one of the
As
allegations.
if
is that
sports weren't complicated enough. But go on.
Well, for Allison's
Allison's
head
like,
is
this is why I
exploding
don't
this morning.
follow it.
We got some help, right, to understand more about this, right, Allison?
Yeah, so joining us now is former FBI Special Agent David Shapiro. David, you can hear that this is mind-blowing, at least to me. Can you explain in layman's terms how this worked?
Well, in a sense, the scheme is quite old. I know it made current news, but what you have is a group of insiders taking advantage of marks who thought the game was entirely legit. And this insider advantage is hardly new anywhere, whether sports, business. Insiders have certain advantages that they could exploit over those that think the performance is in good faith.
And so there's two separate deals going on here. You've got the NBA side of it in terms of potential point shaving, and then the different side of this is what Chauncey was involved in, which is an illegal poker game going on that had Cosa Nostra, the mafia. What can you tell us about that side of the investigation?
Well, you know, the mafia and illegal gambling, perfect together. For decades, that's how the mafia made its bones. That's how it made a lot of its money. People wanting to gamble where they couldn't. So here, what's interesting about this case, among many other facts, or at least allegations, is that one of the persons ripped off, a certain John Doe, was ripped off because he wanted a remuneration for his shuffling machine. So in a way, who's zooming who there? Who's taking advantage?
Right. And that's when you get into the complicated nature of this. So you're a fraud and financial crimes expert who's worked on racketeering cases. How do you follow the money in a case like this?
That's the great thing about using a money audit trail, is that there's no sense in doing any of this for the most part unless you get a financial reward. So in brief, much of the inflows and outflows in our financial system can be traced, whether you're doing Venmos or normal cash deposits or wire transfers. There's always somebody doing it and getting it, notwithstanding crypto.
The FBI director said the investigation is not over. So do you expect prosecutors might get Billups and Rozier to hand over some other people, or how would this expand?
Well, this is burgeoning. I mean, if you look at the John Does and the co-conspirators that are not named, this is a fairly large criminal enterprise extending across states and so forth. And the ability, the capacity to cheat here is distributed across, and I don't want to impugn the NBA because it can happen anywhere in any sort of sporting event, but the ability, the power to cheat and benefit from it inheres in every individual, coach, athlete, referee. It's just, it's unfortunate, but I need to quote Einstein here. I know it may seem irrelevant, but in Einstein's one of his famous statements is, God does not play dice with the universe. And indeed, God does not.
That's profound
that is
early.
Deep.
Yeah.
Profound, David.
Just pulled that right out of your hat.
But as Dave Briggs was just explaining, so there's the poker games that were rigged with, shuffling devices and X-ray tables, which I didn't know was a thing. And then there was the game. And so some of these players, David, correct me if I'm wrong, they were faking injuries and things like that because people were betting on them.
Yeah. I mean, that's why gambling is such a big issue for sports. The ability to fake it, the ability to throw it, to tank a performance. This is not new, right? We all know about, well, most of us, the Chicago Black Sox back in 1919.
Yep.
They got annoyed that their owner was not giving them bonuses and holding back their ability to earn money. And so they tanked the World Series. They bet against it. And I do want to note that it's not just betting against your own team. It's also betting for one's team, because when you make a wager like that, even if you're betting for your team to win or for your performance to be superlative, what you must do to extend yourself in any one game could put the rest of the team and the rest of the season at risk.
That's right.
All right. Yes. Former FBI Special Agent David Shapiro, thank you very much for explaining all of that and dropping some profound Einstein wisdom on us this morning here at Connecting
You didn't
America.
know you were getting that on a Friday,
And,
did you?
did not.
And Allison, I want to give a little more context here. Terry Rozier, who's the active player accused here, he's playing out a 4-year, $96 million contract. So when people say, oh, they're going to need a few extra bucks, this guy's made
doesn't
more
need
than
more money.
$100 million already, and he's playing on a $100 million contract. So why are they doing it? I don't
It's
know.
the allure of
but if
of
this
gambling.
guy's doing it, then it tells you a lot more dudes
You just
are
have
doing this.
you just have more to wager. You have more, excitement, more dopamine. I mean, gambling's an addiction.
And just a few days ago, the NCAA passed a new rule allowing college athletes to bet on pro sports.
There was so much discussion yesterday about, what are the fans going to do about this? How are they going to react? They can't trust what the players are doing in the games. Do you think that's
That's a great
an
question,
issue?
Jim, because all the national media leads with a devastating scandal
Yeah.
for the NBA. I completely disagree. I don't think this matters one bit for the league in terms of their reputation. Everyone's accustomed to gambling and gambling accusations. I don't think it will dent the league's reputation nor ratings in one bit. Now, it's not the NFL. It's not the mother of all U.S. sports. I don't think it hurts it one bit. You're a sports fan, Kieran. Do you think it hurts the league? I do not.
If there is, if more comes
It's
out about
widespread.
whether, how widespread and whether or not the league was trying to cover this up, which, I mean, not good, but you could understand why they don't want this out there. This is a perfect example. We're here talking about it this morning.
Yes, no doubt.
So, yeah, I think it depends.
All right, in other news, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Jamaica are bracing for a long weekend of heavy rain, flash flooding, and landslides as Tropical Storm Melissa slowly crawls through the Caribbean. Forecasters say the tropical storm is expected to be upgraded to a Category 3 hurricane status by tomorrow. But the bigger fear is that it can get even more dangerous. And for the latest, we're joined by AccuWeather meteorologist Alex De Silva. Alex, I'm seeing some reports this could be the biggest, most dangerous storm in the Caribbean ever.
Some models that indeed do show that, but confidence is certainly growing about a very dangerous humanitarian disaster potentially happening here in the Central Caribbean over the next couple of days. Here's where the storm is located now. Not that organized right now. It's still rather discombobulated right now. It was dealing with some hostile winds, so I think it's going to take some time for it to get organized, but it's already bringing very, very heavy rain across portions of the Dominican Republic and Haiti right now. We've already gotten flooding reports out of those areas, and slowly but surely, I think the storm is going to be organizing here over the next couple of days and then creeping to the northwest here. Here's the track of the storm here. We do expect it to intensify into a major hurricane over the next couple of days, but you can see how very little motion the storm is going to be undergoing over the next couple of days, and that's why we're so concerned about this catastrophic flooding. Right now, we have it getting up to a Category 4 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson scale, but if it's able to avoid some land interaction down here, it can't be ruled out that it could potentially get to a Category 5 hurricane, and that's why we're so concerned about this storm here. We take a look at some of these rainfall totals that we're predicting here. Anywhere from Jamaica to Hispaniola here, we could be measuring the rainfall in feet and not inches here. We upgraded our AccuWeather Local Storm Max. Now we have up to 50 inches of rain possible, and it would not surprise me if we even have to raise that even more. There's a lot of mountainous terrain in these countries, and those mountains can act like a sponge and can squeeze out a lot of that rainfall, especially during slow-moving tropical systems. And so this is going to cause a lot of mudslides. I think there's going to be widespread flooding, widespread mudslides in a lot of these countries this weekend and into early next week as well. So that made us make the decision earlier today to go with an AccuWeather real impact of a 5 for this storm. Again, we're concerned about the life-threatening mudslides. Areas could be cut off for potentially weeks with this storm.
And now, Alex, you mentioned the fact that, it's slow moving. At one point, one of the headlines yesterday was that you could actually walk faster than this storm was traveling. And when that happens, of course, the threat of storm surge and flooding just heightens because it's just sitting and spinning in these areas.
Yeah, and that's why we're so concerned about that rainfall. We think back to storms that have impacted the United States. You think back to Harvey, that brought a lot of rain to Texas. That was a very, very slow-moving storm. So, again, we've seen examples of this in the past where storms stall or move very slow, and they just dump and dump and dump. And these areas are very mountainous in Hispaniola and in Jamaica and in eastern Cuba. Very mountainous countries here. And like I said, those mountains will just squeeze out that rain and exacerbate the problems.
What about the impact on the U.S. from this storm, Alex?
Well, the good news is it looks like it should stay off the coast. At least that's what I think the majority of solutions show right now. Here's our 7-day cone. We have it up by Bermuda on Friday, but there are potential scenarios that could bring the storm a little bit closer. If the storm is able to track a little bit further west in the Caribbean, that could allow it to come a little bit more closely to the United States. So we're going to have to watch it very carefully. I think the most likely scenario is a track offshore towards Bermuda, but it is possible that the storm does come a little bit closer. Either way, I am concerned about rip currents and some beach erosion next week along those East Coast beaches, which have already seen lots of beach erosion already this season. So it doesn't look good for those East Coast beaches next week.
Alex, thank you. Appreciate it. President Trump, meanwhile, playing hardball with Russia, taking aim at Russia's biggest oil companies. He joined the EU in hitting Russia with another round of sanctions. The goal is to cut Russia's oil and gas export earnings that fund Moscow's war against Ukraine. Putin says the sanctions are serious, but the war will not stop. Guys, this is easily the strongest thing President Trump has done against Russia in either term. Most were stunned by the move. And if he gets China, India, it's unlikely, and Europe to back him here, President Trump has just changed the game here against Russia, and I think fights back at a lot of his critics that say he wasn't going to do anything tough against Russia. Yeah. This is major.
When he was asked why now, I think he said something like, I have good conversations with President Putin, but they don't seem to go anywhere.
Yep. He finally realized that.
Well,
we've waited long enough.
Yep.
He strikes right at their economy.
It really does. They're
Allison?
suffering right now.
Yeah, he's also changing the rules with Canada because President Trump says he's terminating trade talks with Canada after a controversial ad aired north of the border. So this ad was produced by Ontario's government, and it used audio of President Ronald Reagan condemning tariffs as, quote, economically destructive. So President Trump blasted this advertisement as fake and fraudulent, accusing Canada of trying to interfere with U.S. court decisions. He then announced, quote, all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. So the Ronald Reagan Foundation, this is interesting, confirmed that Ontario never got permission to use that clip. And they say that the edit misrepresents President Reagan's message. Canadian leaders responded that they're just trying to defend jobs and fair trade. But this will obviously add tension between Ottawa and Washington, and it's being called a new low for that tension.
All right. Well, we brought you this story yesterday and some amazing video, and this is about the Louvre, the big heist in Paris. The first real break in the case may actually happen now. French police say they've discovered some DNA that they hope is probably connected to one of the thieves. That's what we're showing.
There they go.
The escape route was after posing as maintenance workers, coming down the cherry picker and making off. They also say that the suspects did use this lift truck, and that is what helped them escape the crime scene. But the DNA was found on a helmet and one of the gloves that was used by the thieves. The hope is this will lead inspectors to one or more suspects. I was just really amazed at how they pulled this off in 4 minutes. $102 million in jewelry in 4 minutes.
Right? I mean, it was amazing, and I thought it was going to be like Ocean's 11 high-tech crimes. It's more like Hamburglar. Like, it's astonishing. I thought this would make a great movie, but it's more like an SNL skit.
Right, they busted through the glass.
Well, but I was reading that the glass didn't actually completely break, that they created a crack and they were reaching in for the jewels, and that's how the crown.
Who knew you could just literally break in the window and steal stuff and get away? I mean, it's I'm sorry to laugh at it, but it's astonishing how simplistic it was.
Cut through the glass and see how that goes.
Let's do it.
And how long it takes you to get in to steal a pancakes. But seriously, we got some more on this heist. We're joined now by Dr. Lori Verduram, the PhD antiques appraiser, who's also been a museum curator and director. Dr. Lori, thanks for being here. Is this one of the more creative heists you've seen? What stands out about it to you?
It would be funny if it wasn't so tragic. It's tragic in terms of course, a huge mistake, a big security breach. How lax is the Louvre? In my opinion, those particular pieces that were part of this jewelry heist, within 24 hours, those pieces were broken apart and have been put onto the black market. It's probably something that has to do with someone on the inside. These particular pieces, while it's probably an organized crime ring that is responsible, it's very probable that somebody assisted. This is a big mistake. How are this closed circuit cameras not being used at this point? How is it possible that outside there is not other security in place? I know that the Louvre, as other museums around the world, have problems with this, but in fact, this is a major problem, and I think that there's going to be some job openings at the Louvre with some high administrators.
Yeah, and so Dr. Lori, is there a reason that you can piece together for why these 9 pieces were stolen, or were they just the easiest to grab?
I think the Apollo Gallery was easiest because it had that access point, obviously, just through the window. how that window's not alarmed properly. Most museums, when there are windows like that, usually a wall is built on the interior, so it's not as easy to access. I understand these are historic buildings, but basically what you have here is a tremendous loss of French cultural objects and, of course, historical objects that will tell the story. What really is going to be interesting, if it continues in the history of museum thefts, in 1911, the Mona Lisa was stolen from the Louvre. And interestingly enough, that when it was returned, that painting became the most desired painting for everyone to see. And more than 100 years later, we all still go to the Louvre saying, I want to see the Mona Lisa. That crown that was found, Empress Eugenie's crown that was they said, it was tossed off because it was so easily recognizable. That was not tossed off, I believe, because it was easily recognizable that it couldn't be resold on the market. They made a mistake. They dropped it and it was damaged. Right. We were lucky that it was dropped, lucky that it was damaged. It can be restored, and that piece will be the piece everybody wants to see going forward. Museums are going to have to change. Of course, their security, it's going to be a lot harder for tourists and others who want to see these pieces. So security is going to get very tight for jewels and royal collections all over the world now.
The jewels are one thing, but isn't the value in most of these pieces primarily historical and therefore impossible to get real value out of?
Well, $100 million is $100 million. So yeah, they're valuable. However, yes, historical value, they're priceless, sure. But in fact, what they're going to do probably is break them apart and recut the diamonds, because the diamonds are recognizable. Many of them are 16th and 17th century diamonds. So they're so old, the way that they're cut would make them recognizable to experts. So it's not going to be like we're going to take the reliquary brooch or the bow, brooch and say, oh, here, we're going to sell it as is. That's not going to happen.
One of the other things that's fascinating about how this was able to happen and what they're possibly going to do in the future. They said that there were alarms around, but it happened so fast within 4 minutes that was the problem. They were talking about installing an actual police department in the Louvre. I don't know how much that would have helped in this situation, but I guess they're going to have to really tighten and verify anybody that comes to do maintenance work, anybody that may look like they belong. They have to really try to verify this. It seems like it's going to be a lot of changes. What about for people that are going there to get a chance to visit? Are they going to face a much tougher time getting access?
I would think so. I would think that that's going to be one of the things that's going to have to be put in place at this point. But with respect to putting a police force or putting, of course, a higher level security force within the museum, that should have been done beforehand. So, as I said, this is where someone was lax. Now, the other problem with respect to the value is insurance. They're state-owned objects, so the state is responsible for these objects. There's not additional insurance on those pieces unless they were moving from the museum to another exhibition site, to another museum. So that's when the insurance kicks in. While they're sitting in their home museum, they are, of course, overseen and not insured with any other types of private insurance. The French state just takes care of them. So that's problematic too.
Can you shed some insight on what might have been taking place behind the scenes? You said there may be some job openings soon at the Louvre. In fact, the director of the Louvre offered her resignation, but it was refused. But what do you think was going on in the moments and hours after this happened in terms of taking stock of what went wrong?
Well, of course, I don't mean to be flip. I'm just saying that basically the situation is so drastic, is so important, and it will, in fact, every other museum will basically around the world will look and say, okay, we've got to shore up our security as well. What I think was happening behind the scenes and why it was closed, of course, everyone would probably be able to ascertain what I did, is the idea was we had to get the police in. They had to review and speak with the staff members, other people who were there. They had to do, of course, their due diligence in speaking with people who were on the scene. So that was usually what took the 2 or 3 days for the museum to be shut down. And when it comes to visitors are going to have to realize that while we're very comfortable in our museums around the world, we want people to be comfortable in our museums around the world. However, it's very important that they realize that they are basically in the presence of objects that are historical, culturally significant, and of course priceless. So we are going to have to do more, and visitors are going to have to realize, well, this is what I have to do in order to enjoy these particular events.
And last, Dr. Laura, you alluded to this being an inside job. I've heard the suspicion that this was an inside job. I've heard a lot of people say that. Is that just because there would have been no way to know that this was so vulnerable, that this entrance and exit was so vulnerable without somebody tipping them off?
Exactly. And most of the big museum heists, most of the big museum thefts have had an inside job component. So if you're looking back at history, that's what we've seen historically. So yes, I think this is why all of us are saying, well, it's probably somebody knew something or at least understood the breach.
Dr. Lori, fascinating. Thank you for walking us through all of this. It just continues to fascinate all of us. It's like something out of either Ocean's 11 or, I would go with Pink Panther over Keystone Cops. But either way, it's really fascinating. Thank you. So
Not
much.
Hamburglar, though.
Not
Hamburglar.
Was it Dark Knight where everybody had the clown costumes on? And they coordinated the buses perfectly, and the buses came busting out. And,
Yes, I think so.
I've always thought that one was fascinating.
Good reference.
Yeah. Well, Connecting America is just getting started. And up next, we're going to go to Nigeria. We're going to be live there learning a little bit more about what is happening with the targeted violence against Christians and Muslims by extremist groups like Boko Haram. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Connecting America, everyone. We need to talk about what's going on in Nigeria because there are these horror killings, as they're called, and kidnappings, and they're continuing in Nigeria. This is where militant groups are terrorizing Christians and Muslims. So on Tuesday of this week, gunmen killed 2 more people in a village in Plateau State. That's the capital. Well, the capital of Plateau State actually bills itself as the home of peace and tourism. So more than 55,000 people have been killed in this bloody religious violence since just 2019. Let's bring in Solomon Dalyup. He's a youth leader in Nigeria to try to explain this to us. Solomon, thank you for being here. Why is this level of brutal violence and murder happening?
It's a pleasure to be here. Why this terror violence continue to erupt and destabilize the peace and tourism on the plateau and part of Nigeria is because the terrorists are after extinction of native inhabitants and taking over their ancestral home states. And of course, by that, they have always been aiming at pulling the economic progress of the native inhabitants. Here on the plateau, to be precise, that is Plateau State, 151 villages and communities under the occupation of the bandits, the terrorist elements, and the Fulani militants who have joined force and are unleashing terror and mayhem on law-abiding. Of course, without displacing the inhabitants, they have land that they could claim to be their own, as against the constitutional provision and our extant laws that provides that no one, when it is either granted to you, you buy it from the original inhabitant. Of course, this is the contrary we see in the other part of this place. So basically, is to take over the economy, take over the political, and also bring a religion of fundamentalism as against what the people had already known. So that is what is informing the terror attack.
Obviously, it was a little bit difficult to hear Solomon. So, it's an important issue. We're so glad that he took the time to join us from Nigeria, but the connection's a little bit tough.
Yeah, we're going to
there.
try to reconnect with him a little bit later.
All right. The chess world is in shock this morning over the sudden death of an American grandmaster. Now, there's been no cause of death released in this case, but NBC News reported 29-year-old Daniel Naroditsky was found unconscious on a couch in his home last Sunday. And now a former world champion faces investigation over comments tied to his death. The International Chess Federation is investigating Vladimir Kramnik for statements he made both before and after Naroditsky's death. The grandmaster and popular streamer was accused of cheating by Kramnik. Naroditsky denied that online. Kramnik, who held the world title from 2000 to 2007, says he never bullied him and wants clarification from the federation. Other top chess stars have slammed Kramnik's behavior, though, as horrible and baseless. And the Chess Federation plans to honor Naroditsky with a special award for his contributions to the game.
Well, it's been a wild week for gold. Gold prices hit an all-time high on Monday, reaching $4,381.52 an ounce, to be precise. I think that was the day that I was like, should I buy some? So my timing's impeccable here. Well, anyway, what comes up must come down, although we haven't really seen gold going down very much. Investors, though, cashed in, and the prices did drop. Gold will show a weekly loss for the first time in 9 weeks, but it's still up more than 55% so far this year.
Doing well. All right.
Well, to learn more about investing in gold and other precious metals, we here at the show have teamed up with our partners at American Alternative Assets to offer a free guide to the gold market. You can go to connectforgold.com or call 888-414-GOLD.
All right, coming up next, we're going to show you where you can get a Thanksgiving dinner that feeds 10 people, they say, for less than $40. We'll find out about that when we come right back.
The views expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of USA Today or its affiliates.
Welcome back to Connecting America. We're coming to you from the Sunrise Diner in Roselle Park, New Jersey, where it's filling up. I'm here with Dave. Sorry,
Dave's over there.
With Dave
Couple of
Briggs,
dudes.
as
Jim.
well as Jim Rosenfield,
There you go.
and my bestie Allison Camerata from her home quarters. And it's great to have you with us on this Friday.
Kieran, I think it's also interesting that USA Today felt the need to run that disclaimer again. I feel like we must have said something, and they need to be like, these are not our words. These are Kieran's words that you're hearing.
Or some other people we know. Who knows?
I was talking about the disclaimer that runs, perhaps, it
It's
needs
usually
to be
for me.
repeated.
I know why it's there.
I think of you.
We all know why it's there.
Hey, we want to talk about what's going on in California, where voters, they're turning out in big numbers now for the special election for what's called Proposition 50. That's the measure backed by Governor Newsom and former President Obama that would allow mid-decade redistricting. This is to counter Republican efforts in states like Texas to boost their numbers in Congress. With millions of ballots already cast, Democrats hold a clear early advantage. Republicans, they're calling it a partisan power grab that undermines the state's independent process.
Which, of course, it is on both sides of the aisle. Political strategist Jeanette Hoffman here in the diner to break down what this turnout means for California and the country. Look, this is one of the worst things about politics, right? It is letting politicians choose their voters instead of what it should be, which is voters choosing their politicians. So what do you make of what's happening in California?
Well, everybody hates gerrymandering except when they're in office, and then they want to do it, right? Because they want to stack the deck for their party and get as many seats as possible. So let's go back in time a little bit to when Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor in California. California. He wanted to terminate gerrymandering, right? That's his legacy. So he advocated for a nonpartisan gerrymandering advocacy. So he put that on the ballot and it passed. So now citizens are allowed to redraw the districts. What Gavin Newsom wants to do is get rid of that. So this is what Prop 50 is all about, to allow politicians to draw the districts. So now Arnold's really opposed to this and Republicans are really opposed to this. But Gavin Newsom is saying, hey, Texas did it, we're going to do it too. We want 5 Democratic seats to get rid of Texas's 5 Republican seats to stand up to Trump.
I was reading a CBS News poll, and when you speak of President Trump, is this largely about voting against the president, if you will?
Yeah, and that's what Gavin Newsom and Barack Obama, who's out there campaigning for it, are saying. Look, California, we got to stand up to President Trump because we're not being treated fairly in this state. Yeah, so that's the campaign that they're.
We're gonna play that sound for you and then have you comment on it afterwards.
Yeah.
Let's take a listen at this commercial.
California, the whole nation is counting on you. Democracy is on the ballot November 4th. Republicans want to steal enough seats in Congress to rig the next election and wield unchecked power for 2 more years. With Prop 50, you can stop Republicans in their tracks. Prop 50 puts our elections back on a level playing field, preserves independent redistricting over the long term, and lets the people decide. Return your ballot today. Vote yes on 50.
There you go. So as you said, there's a big push to say if you're doing this in opposition to the president.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what Gavin Newsom wants to make the argument about, that California is not being treated fairly. We need to fight back.
But Jeanette,
Allison?
isn't that true? I mean, isn't it true that they are fighting fire with fire? I don't know that Gavin Newsom would have made this a big issue had it not started with Republican and President Trump's efforts in Texas. I mean, I think that they think that this is what they must do. Do you buy that argument?
Well, listen, I also think this is about Gavin Newsom and his higher aspirations to run for president, Allison. Listen, he is pretty much one of the highest profile Democrats taking on Trump here. So this is not just about California. This is about Gavin Newsom running for higher office. And I'll just say, this isn't just in Texas and California. This is going on all around the country in red states and blue states. They're trying to re-rig their maps for the midterms in 2026. It's happening in Louisiana. It's happening in Utah. It's happening in North Carolina. You can name a whole handful of states.
And what those states have in common is they're red, and Republicans have a much bigger playing field, a much bigger map to do so.
Because
if you look
blue
at the
states
maps.
have gerrymandered almost everything.
Well,
so
that's not
far.
actually why. It's just the math between now and 2026, and because both parties have done this. But what's different is the mid-decade part of it, right? And that's the part I think both parties should agree should be taken off the table.
Because it's usually done
Because
every decade.
it's usually done
every
after the
decade.
census. After the census,
Right.
because once you get the census numbers, you should look at the census and say, oh, okay, like, people have shifted, population demographics have shifted, so let's, change the maps around. But Democrats in Maryland are looking to do it too. So
It's not just President Obama Californians are hearing from. The GOP also has an ad running. Want to take a look at that? Or not.
There it is.
Prop 50 is another bait and switch from career politicians. Just like how Prop 47 was named the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act, it did the exact opposite. Ushered in a decade of retail theft and record crime. Prop 50 is called the Election Rigging Response Act, but you need to read the fine print. It actually rigs our elections to the benefit of career politicians, political consultants, and special interests. Stop rigged elections now. Vote no on Prop 50.
Any indication on whether or not it will pass?
I think right now the yes vote is ahead by a significant amount right now. And so it has till November 4th, till Election Day, for people to vote on it. And you're going to see a lot more campaigns. I know Arnold Schwarzenegger is out campaigning against it. Republicans are against it. A lot of money is being spent on both sides on this.
Yep. The other interesting thing about California that makes it, unique is that these propositions can get put on the ballot at any time.
Right.
And, and then there's this huge amount of spending on both sides to try to get that passed.
Yeah, exactly. And now Gavin Newsom is saying this is a temporary initiative. So it's suspending the citizens' map decision just temporarily to get this map through. So it would allow 5 Democratic seats, right? Now, Republicans only have 11 seats. So that's significant. That would be a significant change.
All right, Jeanette Hoffman, thanks for joining us here at the table. We appreciate it this morning.
Always fun to be with you guys.
Always. All right. Let's talk about a pocketbook issue. Walmart unveiling its Thanksgiving meal deal. Feeds 10 people for just under $40 total. This includes a 13.5-pound Butterball turkey plus all the fixings like the stuffing, the cranberries, the green beans, the pie crust, the gravy, and more. Walmart says this is the lowest price for its holiday meal deal since they launched this promotion back in 2022. You can get it in stores or on the Walmart app, and the meal deal will be available through Christmas.
All right, that's a good thing. We have Walmart doing this, and last week we talked about Aldi doing it, right? That stores as well, $40. It's supposed to be actually less than it has been over the past 2 years. So we know times are tough, and we know that there's a lot of concerns about affordability for food, and this is at least, a nice effort, hopefully, to be able to have people get a nice Thanksgiving and have it not break their wallet.
Favorite part of the Thanksgiving meal? We know Dave's not a fan of the turkey. Anybody have a favorite?
Stuffing, man.
Oh,
Stuffing.
mine's the green bean
Stuffing.
casserole.
Stuffing, Allison? Okay.
Stuffing. I make an Italian stuffing like my grandmother did with Italian sausage and sage and throw in a few
Yummy.
chestnuts. It's so delicious. It's just a carbo bomb, as you can imagine.
We need
She,
you
of course, fries her turkey.
Yeah.
Allison fries them
out
up.
in the backyard.
I will say,
Famously.
getting to the big picture economically, we
Yeah.
are going to get a very important number today, which is CPI, which gives us a good read on inflation. We're not getting jobs data because the government shut down. So watch this number later on for a real direction at where the economy and the markets are heading. But up next, we're talking to a dietitian to weigh in on RFK Jr.'s new proposed dietary guidelines that could put more whole milk, butter, and steak on the table. Connecting America back after a quick break.
And welcome back to Connecting America. You see everybody in the Sunrise Diner. I'm here at my home quarters. So listen, we have to talk some food and supply. A fight is brewing in cattle country because President Trump is planning to force beef prices down. The White House says it will quadruple Argentine beef imports in order to cut grocery costs. But American ranchers call that, quote, a betrayal. They say that the move undercuts America First promises from President Trump. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association blasted the plan as, quote, misguided, and they warned that it will threaten rural livelihoods. Republican lawmakers from cattle states urged President Trump to reconsider, saying they would prefer market-based solutions. Trump says that ranchers do not understand that his tariffs have helped them, but futures prices and cattle profits have dipped. So I think they might be understanding what's happening on the ground better.
Yeah, they're seeing it. They're seeing it in their wallets every month. And it's interesting with Argentina, Allison. I mean, we've sent about $20 billion to prop up their economy, and some say there's another $20 billion coming, which is a very odd dynamic with the America First president in particular, that no one's exactly sure why this is happening. It's a Scott Bessent thing. But anyway, we'll dive into that
you
on
start
that topic.
alienating, ranchers out in,
that's Trump country.
Middle America. That is Trump country.
Yeah.
That's a problem for the president if that's how they're feeling. All right. Big changes could be coming to America's dietary guidelines. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is pushing for more saturated fat, saying butter, cheese, and red meat have been wrongly demonized. So remember this food pyramid? Current guidelines on the pyramid limit saturated fat to 10% of your calories. Critics are warning RFK's shift defies decades of heart health research. But Kennedy and others in the Make America Healthy Again camp blame ultra-processed foods and sugars, not fats, for the obesity problem and chronic disease that we see in this country.
Can I get a bacon, egg, and cheese croissant here?
No, the croissant's where you run into trouble.
Yeah.
You can have the bacon, egg, and cheese. You
croissant.
cannot have the croissant.
Okay.
Sorry.
The new recommended guidelines could be coming soon. Nutritionist consultant Aaron Polinsky-Wade joins us at the diner to break it all down. Good to see you. Good morning and
Thanks
happy
for having
Friday.
me.
What's RFK proposing here? How would it change current guidelines?
Yeah, so the guidelines right now are 10% or less of our daily calories coming from saturated fat, which has been really based on years of research to lower cholesterol levels to protect our heart. So he's proposing to raise those guidelines, and the push behind it is that if we were to loosen those guidelines, then maybe there'd be less of a focus on ultra-processed foods, getting less added sugars in the diet, which can benefit heart health. But the problem is when we say to people more saturated fat and we don't explain that nuance,
Right.
The concern is, are they just going to load up on butter and bacon and not really make the changes that are going to improve overall health?
My mom used to work for the USDA back in the 80s, and at that time, there's been drastic changes in how much in how much processed foods there are and how much sugar there are in processed foods. So back in the day, when you're talking about having 6 to 8 servings of grains, it's not the same as what grains are today. Do you think that there needs to be some modifications and, as you said, a better explanation for people about how to maintain a healthy diet?
Absolutely. And, the food guide, the pyramid has been outdated for about a decade. We now have what's called My Plate. But the problem is, even with the guidelines for adults, people aren't following them. And most people are not following the dietary guidelines as they are. And I think a big part of that is, to your point, there's so much ultra-processed foods. We're so busy. We're on the run. We're looking for that convenience. And so the convenience foods aren't really what's benefiting our health. So we still have to really address that critical problem of the education and how can we make it more accessible so people can eat that way.
So what should we be eating? Not the breakfast salmon that Dave wants, right?
Don't ruin my Friday, Jim.
Sorry.
Well, look, there's no problem with having fats in the diet. You just want to look at coming from whole food sources. So most people, when we're getting too much saturated fat, it's because we're eating so much processed and prepared foods with that saturated fats.
Such as what?
So think about if you're having like a breakfast pastry, or you're having a pie, or desserts, or snack foods. That's the problem. It's not that you had some steak with dinner or that you had a glass of whole milk. It's really that the combination of those foods that have the saturated fat but also have the refined carbohydrates, the added sugar, that's what's really the health issue.
Can't we cheat?
But Aaron, there's
please?
also
Of course, you have to do what's flexible for you so you have the best diet possible.
But Aaron,
Go
there
ahead,
are
Allison.
good and bad fats. Well, there are good and bad fats as well. For instance, isn't an avocado always going to be better for you than a bacon?
The question from Allison was, isn't an avocado always going to be better than bacon?
Absolutely. I mean, avocados, look, I love them. I love avocados so always, but you have to be realistic too with what somebody's going to want. If somebody loves bacon, having a slice is fine, but I wouldn't say, okay, go add more bacon to your sandwich and take out the avocado. That's not the goal we want, is have the avocado. But if you're already eating the bacon, let's think about what else we can do to improve the diet. And a big thing is, get more fruits and vegetables. The avocado
Right.
fits in there too.
The other difficult part is that it's expensive to eat healthier. I mean, that's just a fact. You can go in the stores and you find that, this is on sale, this is on sale. And oftentimes it's not the quality fats or the quality proteins that are on sale. They're the most expensive.
Exactly. And that's kind of the concern, is that if we change the dietary guidelines and say increase saturated fat, it impacts policies like the school lunch program. And so for some people that aren't able to get the foods available to them, and that's what they're relying on, we just want to make sure that they're getting the best nutrients for them.
Turkey bacon, is that a good substitute for, regular bacon, or am I deluding myself that it's somehow healthier?
Unfortunately, it's not that much better because you still have the sodium, and a lot of times it's the dark meat, so you're still getting a lot of saturated fat. So when it comes to it, just choose the bacon you like, but keep it in moderation.
And we did talk a lot about whole milk versus, and butter and things like that. What about the move toward oat milk and other things like that? At the, I'll always go. I mean, I'm a half and half person.
Yeah.
I know that's probably really bad, but I, just 3.
She's a 3 cream.
Just the 3 per coffee.
What would you advise Kieran? I do want to know. 3 cream Kieran. What's your thoughts?
So think about the whole course of the day. So if that's your saturated fat is the creamer and you're cutting it back in other places, then it's not so bad. But dairy is one of those things. Whole milk dairy does have other benefits. So if you think about fermented dairy, and there's probiotics in there, there's calcium, there's protein. So it's, look at the food as a whole versus just that one nutrient. I think that's where you want to look at
I
it.
kid. She's
maybe
in
2
fantastic
creamers.
shape. She looks phenomenal. I just kidding here.
No, it's
You
fine.
truly look phenomenal. I'm
you.
not joking.
Allison knows we have a long history of eating, of her eating
Badly.
very healthy.
Poorly. Yes,
and
I
me
eat
eating.
well and Kieran eating poorly. if Kieran gets a cut on her arm, cream pours out. That's how bad.
That is very mean. Well, we want to thank you for joining us. You gave us a lot to think about. Emily Polinsky Wade,
Aaron,
nutrition.
yeah.
Did I say Emily?
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
That's
It's
my
all the
daughter's name. I
cream.
love it.
Well, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Well, our question of the day is related to this. Now you know my preference. How about everybody else? You like whole milk? You like skim? You like 2%? What about oat milks, nut milks?
Almond milk.
I love how it says fake /nut milk. I did not put that there, but I guess whoever built that.
I'm an
whoever built
almond
that
milk
graph-
guy.
Yeah.
But I don't like
love
almond milk in
almond
my
milk.
coffee. I don't like the flavor. Of
I
that.
do, because
Yeah,
I get
okay.
the non-sweetened vanilla.
Okay.
Oh, check that out. It's
All right.
delicious.
Scan that QR code. Let us know what you think about your milk of choice.
And if you want to connect with us, you can download the best of Connecting America every day wherever you get your podcast. Just type in Connecting America in the search bar. You can also follow us on social media. We are all over it: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc.
We'll be back at the top of the hour, and as the diner fills up, try to talk to some of the folks here. And now I just want a breakfast, Sammy. What do you say, Dave? Friday? Let's do it.
2.
The views expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of USA Today or its affiliates.
Good morning. Welcome back to Connecting America on the USA Today streaming channels. Got a full house here. We got me, Jim Rosenfield. We got Dave. We got Kieran. And we got Allison at home joining us from her global home quarters. Guys, it is Friday. We made it to the end of the week. No comment
Well
from
done.
anybody about that.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
I'm busy down in Creamer. I'm sorry.
So that's 6 creams if you're keeping score at home.
She's drunk
so
on Kramer.
And it's 8 a.m.
We have a defibrillator in the
Yeah.
back if we need one. Allison, what's going on in the
Guys,
news?
you guys just keep having fun with your saturated fats in the diner, and I'll take the political updates from here because
Thank
there are
you.
two interesting developments in the New York City mayor's race that's, of course, being watched nationally. And this is just since Wednesday night's final debate. So, outgoing mayor of New York, Eric Adams, he dropped out of the running late last month, and he has decided to endorse former Governor Andrew Cuomo.
He looks thrilled in that picture.
Who? Cuomo?
Adams.
Oh, Adams?
Yeah, the-
Thumbs up.
Yeah. It wasn't so long ago that Adams called Cuomo, quote, a snake and a liar. But I guess he's over that. And now the outgoing mayor will campaign with Andrew Cuomo. So perhaps in a sign of what was to come, the two men were photographed together, as you can see, courtside at the New York Knicks game, Madison Square Garden, Wednesday night. This was after the debate. Those are interesting optics. I don't feel like Andrew Cuomo was dressed for a game there, but what do I know about sports garb?
He looks like a
Anyway.
coach, actually.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I guess they gave the thumbs up sign. So I guess that now that will this help? I guess my question is, will this help Andrew Cuomo to have Eric Adams'
That's
endorsement?
And that's the question, Allison.
Do you
And
want that
quite
endorsement?
frankly, on the flip side, could it hurt? And there are a lot of people that are watching this race that think it actually could hurt because it really solidifies what Mamdani said is that it's corruption. And so it really you get to take a corrupt Adams and add it to at one time corrupt Cuomo. Some think it could actually hurt. He only has 6% if you look at the latest polls, and he's not running. But 6%
Adams.
6%
Well,
of
I
the
heard it was
population
even
supports
lower
him.
than that.
So even if you gave that all to Cuomo,
Right.
still a blowout.
I was
Still
really
not close.
surprised that he went right to the game and sat next to him. I was
Yeah.
I was stunned.
right after the debate. Yeah.
I think that some of the political chatter was that he could help him in black communities. Basically,
was already
that
doing
he was,
well there,
Yeah,
Cuomo.
Yeah,
Very
he
well.
was, but
Very well.
that he's going to do some more outreach and just try to explain better why Cuomo would be the better choice than Mamdani for Democrats.
All right, and also this
and I just
private
want just one thing,
conversations.
David. I
Oh,
just
sorry.
want to say
Yeah.
before we get texts from Andrew Cuomo's people, he wasn't ousted in a corruption scandal. Andrew Cuomo, it was more like he was tarnished. I would say his reputation took a hit after the nursing home problems and after the accusations. So I just want to make sure that people know it wasn't corruption that he was accused of, but there were definitely problems that got him out of
Yeah,
office.
there were sexual harassment allegations, which he has repeatedly said in the debates. Those cases were dropped, but he did resign.
It's a great point. And meanwhile, in private conversations, President Trump has reportedly told some of his allies that he thinks Zoran Mamdani has an insurmountable lead in the race and will win. This just in. That is 100% true. The president's preference is Cuomo, despite their party difference. Cuomo is a Democrat who's running as an independent. Cuomo, Mamdani, and Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa battled it out Wednesday night in the final New York City mayoral debate. Now, according to the Wall Street Journal, the president's team doesn't think Cuomo can bridge the gap to beat Mamdani, even if Sliwa drops out, and Sliwa insists he will not. This thing is not close. According to the Real Clear Politics average, Mamdani has a 17% advantage 2 weeks out. There's almost nothing that could change the dynamics of this race right now. It is an insurmountable lead. The question is, I always thought Trump would want Mamdani to win
As a
because
foil.
it's a
Yeah.
great foil.
Yeah.
If you say this is the Democrat
Right.
Party today, generally speaking, I think that's a good story for the Republican Party.
Have we seen any polls post-debate, these two debates?
Well, the one that I read was doing sort of the triangulation if
the what
Sliwa,
if?
if Sliwa did drop out and all of his support, which of course is not guaranteed, goes over to Cuomo and Eric Adams' support, it could get within plus or minus 5.
But Sliwa's not going anywhere,
no,
he says.
First, though, just 2 days after the NBA tipping off its new season, the FBI and the Justice Department announcing a betting scandal that is really rocking the league. The DOJ says that the indictment also includes poker games rigged by the mafia that allegedly defrauded people out of millions of dollars. Here's a listen to FBI director as well as the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York yesterday.
This is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years. The FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing.
This scheme is an insider sports betting conspiracy that exploited confidential information about National Basketball Association athletes and teams.
The biggest names in the indictment are, one-time Dave Briggs is I guess one-on-one partner.
Oh, it was not good. No, he just schooled me.
Okay.
Like I wasn't even there.
Portland Trailblazers coach Chauncey Billups, a former player who's in the Hall of Fame, as well as Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, who is not, he has actually been sidelined, I guess you could say, by the league right now. He is not playing. And the NBA says both men have been placed on lead. Each of them are facing money laundering and wire fraud charges. And prosecutors say that Billups actually participated in mob-run poker games that were fixed to rip off the players who were actually lured to the games with the prospect of getting to meet celebrities. And am I pronouncing his name wrong? Rozier?
Rozier. You got it.
All right, good. Is accused of providing inside information to bettors so that they could get an edge, possibly faking injury, as well as taking himself out of games and placing winning bets. Some of those bets involved the games that he played in.
Yeah, this is quite the scandal. Joining us now is Brian Kalbrowski, senior NBA staff writer for USA Today. Good to see you, my friend. To you, let's just start. What is the headline? Because there's so many tentacles to this story. What's the headline of it to you covering the NBA?
Yeah, the headline right now is absolutely that this is just the nightmare start to the NBA season, both for basketball fans and the league itself. We had a few very exciting games of basketball return to the court in the first few games, and immediately it was just marred by scandal in the nth degree. It was genuinely something that the league would have feared beyond, its wildest possible imaginations. That being said, these are investigations that have been ongoing for years, and the league has been very aware of it the entire time. And realistically, the actual players who are involved here might not just be the only ones. Like, this could continue to impact other players. Malik Beasley, who's currently a free agent, is somebody whose name has come up in other reporting. This is something that might not just be isolated directly to the players that we've heard so far, and I think could potentially continue to impact the league as it moves forward. So that's not exactly a headline. That'd be a log headline, not very SEO friendly, but that's kind of the gist of what we need to know there.
And when you talk about monitoring, I mean, it seems like it would be very, very difficult to do, with some of the more subtleties. I know that the betting houses really try to monitor strange, unusual activity, high volume betting on certain things, especially player props. But I mean, even though the penalties are very costly, how do you make sure that this isn't more prevalent?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think that if these players get, the ultimate punishments that they're potentially facing here, they're all going to be scared to potentially do things like this in the future. Because, for example, Damon Jones, who was an assistant coach, he played with LeBron James. He coached LeBron James when LeBron James won a championship in 2016, and he was LeBron's personal shooting coach for a little bit. I believe, according to the indictment that I read, he was only getting paid about $2,500 per tip for games about when LeBron James wasn't playing. So this isn't a scandal exactly like the games were fixed, like it's the Black Sox in baseball, in the early 20th century. This is more about just actual insider information, insider trading, and learning and knowing what's available to insider people before that information becomes available to the public. So, for example, if his trainer tells his shooting coach, hey, LeBron's shoulder is not doing great, this might hurt me today, that could potentially be valuable to a bettor before the Vegas line shifts. And so it really is not worth it for $2,500 to share that information if you're going to federal prison and having your name disgraced forever. You're never going to work in basketball again. Like your ability to hold a job in the NBA is as good as your name is. And if your name is tarnished like that, that can genuinely ruin every element of it. And with Chauncey Billups, who you're seeing here on the left, the Hall of Fame basketball coach or Hall of Fame basketball player who's now a coach for the Trailblazers, who is definitely the most high profile name. His poker thing is completely independent of this. However, there is somebody in the other indictment, co-defendant 8, whose description matches his pretty much to a T. And so there is some overlap here between these two cases. And that's something that we should definitely be aware of as well, because if he's involved in both of these things, the scandal is far bigger than just saying, oh, Chauncey was playing poker with the mafia. I've watched The Sopranos. That seems kind of fun. Like, Frank Sinatra Jr. was there. Like, those are always good times. But I think that realistically what's going on here is definitely less a question of the integrity of the game like the WWE and more about just literally defrauding people and the actual allegations that are against them, which are also crimes. And for crimes, the punishment, needs to be big enough so that they don't happen again, because you don't want the words gambling and the NBA associate each other unless it's a key sponsor of the league or the publication that's running it.
Brian, we were sort of wondering aloud here. I mean, why would players get involved in this? They make a lot of money for the most part, especially the bigger names. Why would they risk their careers and potentially going to prison over what is relatively small amount of money that they were getting from this operation, allegedly?
Sure. So Jontay Porter, who is the only player that we've seen actually punished for this so far, the only player who's actually been proven guilty of this, who was caught trying to flee the country in 2024, was not a highly paid player. He was a two-way player, which means that he's both on an NBA contract and splits that with a G League contract. And Jontay Porter was genuinely not on a massive salary. Terry Rozier, Chauncey Billups, these are players that have made over hundreds of millions of dollars during their career. And that's something that is absolutely notable in this. I think that one of the things that they're trying to do to prevent gambling like this in the future is to avoid having player props for low-level players like Jontay Porter. A player prop meaning not a bet on the game, but a bet on his over or under on points, rebounds, assists, because offering that on something such a player so low doesn't really make a lot of sense for anybody, including the public. And it encourages those players to potentially get involved and bet themselves. So for Jontay, it's a little bit different. Jontay also, by the way, the younger brother of Brooklyn Nets forward Michael Porter Jr., who just came over from the Denver Nuggets after winning a championship with them. For players like Rozier and for coaches like Chauncey Billups, I don't know why you would want to get involved in this. And we don't necessarily even know to the extent of which they were involved in this. Both of them are going to fight these charges and are going to maintain their innocence. Terry Rozier has claimed he's innocent. Chauncey Billups plans to do the same. And Terry Rozier has willingly cooperated with the federal investigation at every step of the way for the past couple of years since his incident was first flagged in March 2023.
Follow Brian Kalbrowski, Bryan Kalbrowski on X for the latest on this story. Really appreciate you being here, my friend. Thanks so much and have a good weekend. Chauncey made $100 million playing basketball. He makes almost $5 million coaching. Rozier is playing on a 4-year, $96 million deal. It makes no sense that they would risk all of it for a couple $100,000. Chauncey could go to jail for 20 years potentially.
It's an investigation we'll be following, obviously. Coming up after the break, though, the editor-in-chief of the school newspaper at Indiana University going to join us to talk about a controversy at the paper over what they can and cannot publish right now. We'll be right back.
And welcome back to Connecting America. Glad to have you with us. So let's talk about what's going on at Indiana University. This is at the school newspaper. It calls itself the Daily Student, and it is now in the news. So the director of the student media was fired recently over a disagreement with the university administration over what and where they could publish. So the school did not want any news content in print, old school print. Instead, breaking news would go on to the digital edition. The student editors in chief pushed back, writing an article about this decision. They then published a piece with the huge red headline there you see saying censored, and the subhead saying this is not about print. This is about a break of editorial independence. Kieran.
Well, those editors-in-chief join us now. Welcome to Mia Hilkowitz and Andrew Miller. They're joining us now on Connecting America. Thanks, you guys, for joining us. So the university is claiming the move is not about censorship. It's about consolidating the news into the digital format. What do you guys think? And why is this something that you want to bring to the attention of everybody out there?
Yeah, so fundamentally, the university was trying to tell us what we could and could not print in our newspaper. And the rationale behind that was an irrational business decision that print wasn't making us money. In fact, over the semester, it's made $11,000-ish in profit. So if the university could use an irrational business decision here to dictate what we could or could not publish, that leaves the future open to a lot of scary possibilities. So we decided to fight back about it.
Andrew, I'm wondering, is the print edition still really popular on campus? Is that something that students pick up? Because we know that most people, are using their devices to get their news. Is it different on campus?
Yeah, I'd say it depends on the location. Some areas in campus, we have some low pickup rates. Throughout the city, we have pretty high pickup rates, and certain locations on campus, we do as well.
But Mia, I mean, just help us understand. This wasn't about an editorial story or direction or angle that the administration didn't want you to publish. This is about the delivery system. And I hear what you're saying, that if they can control one thing, it might be a slippery slope. But have they ever told you any story that you can't publish?
Yeah, absolutely they have. And I think if you look at their immediate directive that they gave us in October, their immediate directive was to not print any sort of news. So this really at its core is not about distribution. Are trying to cut print after the fact, after they gave us that initial directive to not print a certain type of content. I think their initial directive was a lot more telling of what their true intentions are.
So it got the attention of billionaire and former Mavericks owner Mark Cuban, who tweeted about this. We're going to read this tweet, get your reaction. Quote, "Not happy, censorship isn't the way. I gave money to IU General Fund for the IDS last year so they could pay everyone and not run a deficit. I gave more than they asked for. I told them I'm happy to help because the IDS is important to kids at IU." Guys, what does that mean to you to have that support from Mark Cuban?
Yeah, I would say that the support from Mark Cuban, I think, really shined a spotlight on it, but we've also been receiving an outpouring of support from alumni across the entire university. The IDS has been around for 158 years, so we have a really strong alumni network. And I think what alumni now across the world are saying is that this is very, very wrong. This is a clear tactic of censorship. And so to have people like Mark Cuban and the other alumni who have spoken out for us, it's been really encouraging.
You are getting support actually from some other places, including universities like Purdue. They're supporting your paper and its cause. Their student paper, The Exponent, was delivered to your campus, and they called it Operation Clandestine Delivery. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so essentially, they had offered to print our full edition for us, but due to the nature of our student media director getting fired earlier in the week, we wanted to play it very carefully. And so they printed their own special edition. They republished our letter in it and other content that they produced. And it was just, honestly, it was an amazing show of solidarity between student newspapers, because what's happening to one in Indiana or across the country can happen to all of them. So I think there's a lot of eyes, not just at Purdue, but across the country within student newspapers looking at what's happening here.
All right, before we let you go, Mia, I have to get your thoughts on the Indiana football team. Number 2 in the country. How excited is the campus? Are we talking national championship in Bloomington?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are really excited about it. I know our football reporters have been very, very busy lately. We're kind of planning out the rest of the season, but yeah, I would say they're excited.
Not to bury the lead. We understand the story is still about censorship. Mia and Andrew, thank you so much for joining us here on Connecting America. Very much appreciated. Jim?
I've got an interesting nugget here on the federal shutdown. The CDC hasn't updated its weekly flu numbers since September 20th. And this is, we're in flu season now. Good news, seasonal influenza activity was low at that time, but typically flu cases, they start to go up in November. So going forward, we're going to look for state health reports to help gauge the situation until the CDC is back in business, as we face potentially the longest shutdown or nearing that.
It seems
record.
like a guarantee at this point, doesn't it? The betting markets have it at 45 days. The longest ever is 35. And both sides are dug in. They are entrenched.
I'm really still feeling that as soon as it starts to affect more people in terms of SNAP benefits,
November
paychecks,
1st
other things
would
like
be that
that.
around the corner.
Yep. I just think that the outcry is going to be huge. I think that it's their responsibility to get this together. It's absolutely ridiculous that, this infighting between the parties and between the White House and Congress is forcing people to not be able to pay their rent and buy food for their families. It's actually really despicable.
Back to the flu. This flu report, want to mention, is brought to you by Urgent Care Kit for everything you need this flu season. You can go to urgentcarekit.com/CA. Make sure to use the promo code CA, and you get a $45 savings.
Well, we're joined now by John Castimedes. He's a conservative New York City businessman, owner of WABC Radio, to talk about the New York City election. Good morning to you, John.
Businessman and a common sense in politics. That means it's not about the left, it's not about the right, it's about making America great again and making the free world free, keeping the free world free, and New York, well, saving New York.
John, we know you and other influential city leaders are calling for the Republican in the mayor's race, Curtis Sliwa, to drop out of the race. He's not going anywhere, he says, even reportedly walked off the job at your radio station. What's the status on that? And do you get any sense that he may budge and drop out of the race?
WABC, our radio station in New York, and the #1 radio station in the country right now, today we took a full-page ad in the New York Post, the 4th largest paper in the country. As well, the USA Today is doing pretty well too, and we endorsed Andrew Cuomo. First of all, Mondami. During the debates the other night, it came to revelations that of all the votes cast in the state assembly, which he's a member of state assembly, he did not show up for 80% of the votes. This gentleman doesn't know anything about what's going on. He has a great smile, and he goes out there and lies to the people. And it's lies, lies, lies. It's not about it. Andrew Cuomo was governor for 11 years. He had 11 years of budgets on time. He's run New York State. He knows how to get more out of the state for this New York City. So he is the common sense solution. Is Andrew Cuomo perfect? No, he's not perfect. But in this particular case, he's better than the other 3 individuals. And he'd make a great mayor in New York. And you know what I said before? President Trump was 4 years on the beach. But now he's one of the greatest presidents we ever had. And I was with him the other night. We had dinner on Tuesday night, and $17 trillion of new investments are coming into the United States of America. And that's not on the balance sheet yet. So the economy over the next year or two is going to be great. I think because
is that what you're talking? Hold on, John, because I just want to dive into that because people's turkeys prices are going up 40% this year. Cattle ranchers are really struggling as they see money going to Argentina. I mean, I feel like a lot of voters aren't feeling that. Those are true numbers, John.
I'm in the supermarket business, so I can counter you.
Go ahead.
I just got our turkey prices. Last year we paid $100.23 wholesale for the turkeys. This year we're paying $1.43 so far.
And what are people buying?
What does it have to do
what
with
else
tariffs?
is going up?
We're not importing turkey.
Yeah,
but are your prices up year to year, John?
President Trump had promised to bring it all down. Go ahead.
Well,
Go ahead.
let me tell you something. It's coming down. You know the problems we're solving? We're bringing $17 billion of new industries into America. That's not on the balance sheet yet. Interest rates are coming down, and as soon as Powell is gone in April, the interest rates are going to come down some more. So the real estate industry can build more homes, can build more houses, because right now the real estate industry was crippled. And people had to buy 30-year mortgages the past 4 years. People have to buy 30-year mortgages, 30-year houses for 7% interest. Unheardable. Unheardable.
And John, I want to ask your opinion about this. You talk about the common sense solution being the former Mayor Cuomo. Why is there such huge support for Mamdani among New Yorkers?
Because he's been lying to them. He's been lying to them, and the lies are starting to come out. And right now, he's in a mode where he's trying to save whatever he has. But he is going to lose in 10 days because people are realizing that he cannot deliver. I told you I was with President Trump the other night. And you know what the key to the solution is? President Trump has the keys to the federal money going to New York. And he says he will not allow money to go to New York that's going to be spent like drunken sailors. And nothing against drunken sailors. They're great people.
Let me just close with this, and this is, again, an indisputable fact. The final month of the Biden administration, CPI, which I'm sure you're aware of, is our best gauge and what the Fed uses to gauge inflation. It was at 2.7% the last month of the Biden administration. Numbers just came out 3 minutes ago, show it at 3%. That has picked up from the Biden administration, and that is 1% higher than the Fed target, John.
Let me tell you something. The targets are the targets. Interest rates are coming down. The stock market is at 47,000. I predicted, Larry Kudlow works with us at WABC too. I predict 50,000 on the Dow Jones in the near future because people have confidence in the economy. They have confidence that Washington is going to do the right job. And enough of this, the situations where, we don't want nonsense running the government. We don't want, the people. We don't want, in my daughter's school, we don't want people, men playing in women's sports. We don't want men.
We don't have time to litigate all. We don't have time to litigate all that. We were prepared to talk about. Yeah, we were prepared to talk about the New York City. John, thank you so much from WABC. Really appreciate you
anytime.
being with us. All right, come back and talk about the New York election anytime.
Anytime.
After the
Thanks,
break,
anytime.
we will talk some football after the break with USA Today's NFL insider, Tyler Dragon. We'll be right back.
I just was like, and
All right, it's Football Friday. Welcome back to Connecting America. NFL Week 8 kicking off last night. Chargers dominating the Vikings 37-10. Just one of the good matchups. Wasn't great this week. Joining us now, USA Today's NFL insider Tyler Dragon. Tyler, good to see you, my friend. So we don't have a great halfway point anymore because we're 17 weeks, but it's always a good time to take stock of, like, what are the biggest surprises to you? And most importantly, who do you think is the MVP in the NFL right now?
Well, that's a good question.
No
The
chance.
Indianapolis Colts are certainly a surprise. They have the best record in the NFL, and they might even have two MVP candidates on their team. Daniel Jones, who's had a career renaissance season for the Colts and their top-ranked scoring offense. And then in the backfield, Jonathan Taylor, their running back, leads the league in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. So those are two certainly MVP candidates. And I have to go, even though their record is no indication, but Patrick Mahomes. I mean, watched during the second portion of the season. He just got Rashee Rice back. He has Xavier Worthy healthy. Yep. And I feel like he's going to have a really good second half of the season now that their receiving corps is complete. And it would not surprise me at all if he's in the MVP discussion come November and come December as well.
He's the best player on the planet. I have Daniel Jones 1, Baker Mayfield 2, Patrick Mahomes 3 right now, Kieran.
All right. Well, all right, fine. I mean, I seem to remember somebody beat him in the Super Bowl, which was Jalen Hurts and his Eagles.
Not currently anywhere near the conversation.
Well, we'll see about that. For some reason, people love to downplay Hurts. And I mean, yes, I'm an Eagles fan, but I mean, this is a guy that can come through time and time again, no matter what happens. And they're getting back. You know how there's just like a team dynamic that's really interesting. Brandon Graham is just like, you know what? I'm going to unretire. Let me put the uniform back on, and I'm going to get out there and edge rush and help my Birds win. I love that. I'm so excited for this week.
Well, I don't know how much Brandon Graham is going to help. I mean, from a leadership perspective, he'll add some value. I mean, he might be able to rush the passer a little bit, but coming off your couch after retirement, being in your mid-30s in the NFL, I don't know how much of an impact he's going to have, but you're right on Jalen Hurts. I mean, the Eagles, their offense, let's face it, has been up and down this season, but he had a season high in passing yards, his first 300-yard passing game last week. The Eagles offense looked a whole lot better in terms of being more balanced. They still need to get Saquon Barkley involved and have get a breakout game from him running the football. But overall, the Eagles look to be a better team, especially that win over the Minnesota Vikings. But the way the Vikings looked last night, maybe everybody looks good against the Vikings. But I'm interested to see what the Eagles do this weekend for sure against the New York Giants, a team that beat them just a couple weeks ago pretty handily. Cam Scatterboo and company really and Jackson Dart had their way against the Eagles. So this is a big revenge game for Philadelphia.
You ready for it?
I'm ready. I mean, I have a house full of half Eagles, half Giants fans, so you guys are all welcome to come over.
All right, let's talk Sunday Night Football. Packers, Steelers. That means Aaron Rodgers facing his former team, and also Jordan Love, quarterback who replaced him in Green Bay.
Yeah, speaking of revenge games, this is probably the game of the week. Aaron Rodgers has a chance to be just the fifth quarterback in NFL history to beat all 32 teams. That's how long he's played in the NFL, if he can beat his former Green Bay Packers. And then, like you said, on the other side, Jordan Love. This is a guy who sat behind Aaron Rodgers, learned from him. Now let's see if he can beat his former teacher. But I would also watch out for Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons had a 3-sack game, a career high last week. He's really coming on for Green Bay. So that's kind of a storyline that's under the radar. But, yeah, Aaron Rodgers, his first career game against his former team, and Jordan Love going up against the Steelers team that lost kind of to an inferior team in the Bengals last week. So, they want to get back in the winners column. So I'm really excited for this game.
Tyler, before we let you go, one of the stories of the week was the New York Jets game. On the way out, there's an Instagrammer who's talking to fans, and he finds this young kid who just unloads about how he's born into the Jets and he hates the Jets. And now they are 0-7. This video, by the way, viewed 20 million times on Instagram alone. Will the Jets win this year? They are 0-7. They've got Cincinnati this week. And I think the only winnable game looks like New Orleans in December. Will they go 0-17?
There is hope for the Jets. I do believe that they'll win a game or two, but it won't be too much more than that. The good news is they'll probably have a really good 2026 first round pick. Could be number 1 overall, where they can draft a quarterback, because we learned this week that the owner doesn't really like the quarterback situation in Justin Fields as well. So there could be good news down the road for the New York Jets.
All right. Well, Tyler Dragon, always good to get your take. I will we'll see you next week, and we'll see which one of us is right. Although I have a feeling it.
Any wagering? I mean, in terms
I'm
of
afraid
the
to
loser?
bet now. I don't want no. After all we've talked about today, are you kidding?
Yeah. Friendly wagering.
Right?
We need to find that young man, the Jets fan, who
I've been
hates
trying.
his team.
The world has been trying. Yeah, we got to find
Anybody knows
this
who he
Jets
is, Connecting America, let us know.
Please check out the video on Instagram.
It's
it is
hilarious.
delicious.
He's trying to break the cycle. All right. Well, when we come back, our Broadway Insider is here to look at the best shows to take the kids to for the holidays. Stay with us.
Oh, you will?
Welcome back to Sunrise Diner here in Roselle Park, New Jersey. Dave, I don't know. Did you say something to him? He left the table.
He's right back there on camera. Hey, Dave. How you doing?
I'm great. He wants to finish his breakfast, Sam. We've got Lee Sheps here to talk about some great shows for you to take your kids to during holiday season, right?
This is something I'm so passionate about because my 3-year-old, I'm looking for shows to take him to this winter. You know, maybe not necessarily the movies with the screen, he's too young, but this is an experience that you can do when it gets cold and dark and you're like, what should we do? Well, you should go to New York City to see one of these shows. And I want to point out that I'm going to talk about some shows that are in more of an intimate setting than, mind you, if you go perhaps to a big arena or a stadium with thousands of people, right? And you need binoculars to see what's happening on that stage. Yeah. These are all shows with 1,200 seats, the Broadway theater I'm going to talk about, and more intimate shows. And my son has seen one of the shows I'm going to talk about, the Caterpillar, the Very Hungry Caterpillar show. We're going to talk about that.
Love the book.
And so I find that he really enjoys it and he can see what's happening. So that's why I want to talk about these specific shows. And of course, the big show, the holiday show, is the Radio City Christmas Spectacular.
Yes, the traditional
Rockettes. The Rockettes celebrating 100 years this year.
Amazing.
At Radio City. So I haven't seen this show since I'm a little girl. I will go. But of course, you might be seeing the show. You might already have your tickets or you're planning on it. But here are a few other shows that I want to suggest this year that are family-friendly shows. The first one, Rob Lake Magic with special guests, the Muppets. Miss Piggy is going to make her Broadway debut this year. This show, Rob Lake, you might remember him from America's Got Talent. He is an illusionist. Look at this.
Neat.
So this show is playing at the Broadhurst Theater.
Is he going to
Broadway.
cut Miss Piggy in half or something?
I don't know. I haven't seen it. I can't wait to see this. But Kermit the Frog is in this as well. And this is recommended. Broadway shows, our age recommendation is ages 4 and up for this show. And what's good about it is it's 90 minutes long, so there's no intermission, and the kids can sit through this if you do take the younger kids, 4, 5, 6 years old to that show. The next show I want to talk about, and by the way, I do have notes. Last week, you guys said, oh, you have everything memorized. But this week I had a lot of facts that I want to mention, so I brought out some cue cards.
No shame in that. You're very organized.
The next show, Elephant and Piggies, We Are in a Play.
That's so cute.
So this is based on a New York Times best-selling author's book, Mo Willems.
Yes.
And honestly, I have not read this to my 3-year-old. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get one of the books, or a few of them, read them, and prep him, because this is one of the shows I'm really excited about, because this is a musical for kids. And think about when you go to a big show, we've talked about it here, thousands of people in the theater. This is a more intimate setting at the Atlantic Theater. It's running from December 13th through February 1st, ages 3 to 7, and the tickets, $35 for adults, $15 for kids.
The Atlantic Theater in New York?
In New York City.
Okay.
These are all
This is
shows
very
in New York
sweet.
City.
It's a very sweet little franchise
You know
of books.
this.
Yeah, my Mo Willems, our kids got to meet him when they were in grade school, and they
wow.
they just loved it. They absolutely loved it. So this is adorable. They've aged out now. My kids, unfortunately, they can drive themselves to this, but I would think that would be a wonderful one for the little ones.
Yes, so that's the one I'm definitely signing up, and we are definitely going to that, because musicals he loves, and he sings the songs afterwards, and I think it's a really great experience to introduce young kids to live theater at this age, at 3 years old. New Victory Theater is on 42nd Street. It is an off-Broadway theater, and this is a gorgeous space. They've got quite a few shows. The first one is Snow White, and this is recommended for ages 6 and up, actually, because I think it's a little bit more mature for kids. So I'm not taking my 3-year-old to this one, but this is running for the first week of November. The next show that the New Victory Theater has is Mario the Maker Magician 2.0. This is running from November 15th to the 30th, ages 4 and up. It's 60 minutes long. These are short shows, so the kids can sit through them. If you might be afraid, they can't, but you'd be surprised that the kids are really engaged. And this is DIY electronics and robotics, and uses magic to inspire kids to make and create without limitations. Their last show, Merry Mayhem, December 5th through the 28th, ages 5 and up, and it's a circus show brought to you by the Australian icons, Circus Oz, and Playful Punches, Pranks, and Pratfalls. I had to practice to say that 3 times
Very
fast. 75 minutes long, that show. Also Also good ticket prices, $30 starting at and through $72. And the last show I want to talk about is The Very Hungry Caterpillar. This show you can take the babies to. 6 months and up. I took my son when he was 2 years old. It's about 55 minutes long. Here's video of when we went to see this maybe 2 years ago. It's The Very Hungry Caterpillar comes to life on stage. It is so engaging. And this show is playing at the Manhattan Movement and Art Center on the Upper West Side. Its performances start in November. It's obviously based on the book series. And I cannot recommend that enough. And after I went to see the show, so many friends were like, how do we get tickets to go to the show? Because they wanted to take their young ones too.
I need to find a baby around town and just take him.
A lot of that show is for younger kids, but a lot of the rest of the shows, take the whole family. They're all family-friendly shows, good shows.
Taking me back to reading those books with my kids
The
at
Very
night and falling asleep, and they were wide awake. I was asleep. But I love The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Great book. That'd be fun to see. Allison is back at home. Does that bring back memories for you too?
Oh my gosh, I was just thinking, Kieran, what you and I would have given when we had toddlers to kill an hour, to bring them to some place to kill an hour so that we could take a nap.
Exactly.
Like that would be so great if they were entertained. I mean, live theater is wonderful, and also it kills an hour with a toddler. So that
we would spend a whole day. It's a whole day experience, and we have the memories. And he's still talking about these shows and singing some of the songs. When we saw Pete the Cat, the musical, he's still singing the songs from that show.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, well, thank you for bringing us that perspective because, you're never too young.
No.
You're never too old.
Guess not.
Lee Sheps, thank you.
All right, guys, let's talk about, can we talk about K-pop Demon Hunters?
Yeah.
Yeah, do it, girl.
Okay, it's a blockbuster on Netflix, as you probably know. It's the most popular film ever on Netflix. It has more than 325 million streams worldwide in 3 months. The film's soundtrack was #1 on the Billboard charts. It's hitting theaters now just in time for Halloween. So they have all sorts of merch, as you can imagine, T-shirts and hats and everything. It's just so, I gotta say, it's so catchy. The music is so catchy. I can see why it's sweeping the world, Anyway,
you know what it reminds me of a little bit? You know what it reminds me of? Do you remember Gem? Do you remember Gem when we were little, Allison? Are we aging
Wait,
ourselves?
I like that you say when we were little. I feel like that might have been a different era. No, I don't remember Gem.
I don't either. Don't look at me.
All right. Who knows? I mean, maybe my parents made it up, but I thought it was just all the pink hair and the rock band, the rock band Chic, and then there were the good girls, and then there was
a group.
Yeah, they were part of a group, and then there was the bad girls, like the Misfits group, and it just reminds me of that. Everyone wants to be a rock star. You would have.
All right, we want to revisit the results of our question of the day, Allison. Your personal preference about milk, whole, 2% skim, or the so-called fake nut milks, and it seems that people are weighing in that they want their whole milk.
Whole milk is the way. All right.
Bring on the fat content.
That's right.
All right.
They really don't
it's Friday,
skim.
everybody.
Anyway, have a great time. If you can connect with us on social media, we'll see you next week.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.